Have you ever had homemade yeast rolls made with real fresh milled flour? If not, you are in for an amazing treat. Let me show you exactly how I make these.
We are going to make homemade yeast rolls with freshly milled wheat berries today. And I've talked a lot about how beneficial freshly milled wheat is for our health. It has so much more vitamin E, so much more B vitamins. It has over 40 different vitamins and minerals to sustain life. It's so much better than bread from the store. And once you taste it, you will never go back to regular flour. And these yeast rolls are really easy to make. This was probably the recipe that my husband and my kids loved the most from all the recipes I made last year. And I've actually gotten to where I make the yeast rolls almost exclusively instead of the loaf bread, just because everyone loves putting them on a breakfast sandwich or with their lunch. They're just really soft and delicious. And it's a really easy process. And I love to use the wheat berries from Ancient Grains. I like the einkorn wheat berries, and I also love all of the wheat berries from Barton Springs Mill. So I will have both of those linked. But I like to do a mixture. You can use soft wheat or hard wheat. You can use red or white, whichever kind you have available. This is just a really forgiving recipe. You can use whatever kind you have. And if you're not familiar with wheat berries, they just kind of look like a little seed, and you pass them through your grain mill. You can use a standalone mill, or I've got one attached to my KitchenAid here, and it produces just a really fine flour that you're used to, but it's got a little bit of the wheat germ in it. And like I said, the flavor is unmatched. So let me take you along with me and show you how I make these yeast rolls.
First, you're going to mill about 6 cups of wheat berries. This is going to turn into 9 cups of flour because the volume expands after it's milled. And I am milling it in my mock mill, and I have the attachment for the KitchenAid, but you can also purchase a standalone mixer, which is what I want to do at some point, and I will have the mock mill linked down below. And just a little clarification on wheat berries. White wheat and red wheat berries are both great for this recipe, but you want to use the hard red wheat or the hard white wheat because it has more gluten development. And I like to use half of a hard wheat, and the other half I like to use an ancient grain such as einkorn or spelt. And as I said before, Grand Teton Ancient Grains is a great place to get these, and I have those linked in the description for you guys. While your grains are milling, you're going to start with a large bowl and add your lukewarm water. We're going to use 3 cups, and you want to make sure that the water is not too hot, just kind of warm to the touch, because if it's too hot, it will kill the yeast and your rolls will not rise properly. Next, you're going to add 2 1/4 tablespoons of instant dry yeast to your warm water, and we are using instant yeast instead of active yeast for this recipe. Next, you're going to add 3 cups of your freshly milled flour to the yeast and water mixture, and you're going to mix this around, and this is going to help proof the yeast so it can get nice and bubbly and active and ready to go for your rolls later. And this is just going to help the rise process go faster and make a more successful batch of rolls. After that, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of sunflower lecithin. And this is a really important step. It is optional, but it helps give your rolls a super soft texture, just like the rolls that you would get at the grocery store. Sometimes with freshly milled flour, it can be a little bit more dense, and this really gives it that light, fluffy texture. Then you're going to add a tablespoon of high quality sea salt. I love using Celtic salt, but any of your favorite salt will work. At this point, you're going to add the rest of your freshly milled flour, your coconut oil, and your honey, and make sure that's all really well combined. Sometimes I like to add a little bit of flour, then do the oil and the honey, and then do the rest of the flour, but you just want to get that all nicely incorporated before you knead your dough. Now you're ready to knead your dough. If you're using a hand mixer, you want to add the dough attachment and you want to knead it for about 10 minutes. And if you're doing this by hand, you want to knead for about 15 to 20 minutes. You want to knead your dough until it comes together. It's going to be slightly sticky, but you can do the window pane test where you stretch it out and see if you can see light through it and know if it's ready to go. And once it is, you can lay it out on some sort of floured or oiled surface. And we're now going to shape our dough into rolls. I usually shape them into small balls around the size of a tangerine. You can make them a little bit bigger if that's your preference. If you want to make them all exactly the same size, you can measure them with a kitchen scale, but I just like to eyeball it. So you're going to shape each roll and tuck the edges underneath, and you want to kind of create some surface tension. I like to kind of go around it with my hands at the bottom. And then you're going to place the rolls seam side down onto an oiled tray or baking dish. And you want them to be kind of slightly touching. And then you're going to cover them and allow them to rise in a warm place for around 40 minutes until they're doubled in size. These rolls are very forgiving. You definitely don't have to shape them perfectly. You're just going to lay them out, and once they bake, they're going to puff up so beautifully and they're going to be perfect. Once your rolls have fully risen, you're going to bake in a 350-degree preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes until they're just starting to get brown on top. And if you like, you can brush them with butter before serving, or I just like to slather the insides with butter. There's literally nothing better in this entire world. Your family is going to love these. I highly recommend making them. Remember to check the description below for all the links to the grain that I love, all the wheat berries, and also for the mock mill. And you can also visit my website, healthychristianhome.com, for the full written recipe. I'll have everything linked down below. I'm so glad you guys spent the day with me making rolls, and hope you guys enjoy.